Miriam Hanane, an investigative journalist.
We're here asking people about the coronavirus.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Truth Lives Here. I'm Miriam Hanane, investigative journalist and functional medicine coach. And today I am joined by Philipp Samor Von Holtzendoff. I was
Correct.
to butcher it. And we're going to be talking about LEELA Quantum Tech, which this necklace that I'm holding, which is functional, and Philipp will talk about it. And there's also blocks, and I'll be offering it on Honey Colony. So maybe you can introduce yourself, Philipp, and properly pronounce your name. And then, I mean, like many, let's define quantum. I know I've listened to some of your interviews, and I know people accuse you and the technology of being woo-woo, but that there's hard science, which I want to get into. So welcome.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. That's exciting here, and certainly I can get into that. I'm Philipp. Let's just stick with this. Von Holtzendoff Fehling would be the way to say it, but it's just a mouthful. And yeah, so who am I? So I used to be in corporate Europe and corporate US, but in parallel in the early 2000s, I realized that there's way more to life than just that. And at that time, I was very unhappy in my place. So I really got into meditation and yoga, got trained in various healing techniques, shamanic healing techniques, other healing techniques, past life regression work, all that good stuff. And in parallel, I always try to help heal my wife, who was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease. And doctors had told her, well, you just have to live with this because you've had it for 5 years. There's nothing you can do about it. And we both didn't accept that. Now, my wife has her own abilities because she was born with the ability to see aura and energy fields. So she's a very, very strong clairvoyant and can read people better than anyone on earth I've ever met before. And I've met a lot of different healers. But it was a teacher for her. So that disease was a teacher for her. And for me, it was the spark to get into biohacking and bioenergy hacking, really figure out what's out there that truly helps people to get better. So that really developed my passion within me. And now I'm here working with quantum technology and frequency medicine, and thankfully I've not been accused so far of having woo-woo technology. I'm actually saying myself that it is woo-woo on one hand, but what is woo-woo? I think we need to define that. Woo-woo doesn't mean it's not real. It's actually extremely real. It's just that it doesn't fit with the narrative.
Yeah, mainstream.
Exactly. It's not the mainstream narrative or the mainstream belief of how things are, and we then need to get into that. So I'll give you an example. If we traveled back to the 1600s with a smartphone or without a smartphone, and we would tell people on the streets what we can do with that, they would say, you're crazy. It is absolutely impossible. There's no way you can do that. And certainly it's possible. We all know this, right, to be true. But you can't imagine something that is so new to your brain and to what you thought is true.
I also want to say that, people put so much credence on just things that they can see, right? Like mold is very real, but because it can't be seen, it's not accepted. And we're electricity and water, and we're energetic beings, but yet there's so much emphasis on matter, which is nuts. The mainstream doesn't acknowledge epigenetics, the impact of someone else's energy on you. And it's sad, but I do think frequency medicine, energy medicine is the future. Do you see that since you began this company, that there is a more acceptance? Like, when did you start this company?
Yes, I think we launched it a little over 3 years ago, and certainly worked on it way before. And you're absolutely right. We're seeing quite a huge shift. So very early on, there was a lot of skepticism, right? And now it's just people are so more open to it, and they realize that their energy and frequency, and most of them can't still grasp it or understand what that really means, but they understand it, and they tend to feel better. So people are waking up. People are much more open to this, and I think every year now we see these consciousness levels on Earth actually shift and increase, even though it doesn't look like that in the outside, but it is really happening. And that's part of that. Like, humans are waking up, and we see that all over the world, frankly. Also, wherever we go, there's a lot more open-minded people suddenly in regards to that. But obviously, for people that are listening now, and we'll get into that probably, but we have hardcore science to back up every single claim that we make in many different ways. So I wanted to do that from early on, because I knew that the vast majority of the people there are still brain focused, and if you want to reach people and also help people, a lot of them still just need something that feeds the brain, and then they can come from that side, and then they really open up. Even though they didn't think it was possible, suddenly they're like, oh my God, I'm trying this because I see the science, and then they realize, well, it is indeed working, like, and they can't understand why, but it is.
I would think with the advent of increase in EMFs and 5G, that people would be looking for you, even though they might not understand the science. So maybe we can just start, like many people ask you, how do you define quantum? And then if you can explain, Philip, like, how do you go about starting such a company, and how do you even know what the frequencies are? You can talk about how these are programmed with certain frequency, and I can open up and show the beads in a moment.
Mhm. So quantum energy is the energy behind the matter. So we, I think, know that we're over 99% space, or we've heard that before, right? And it is commonly said that it is empty space. That is the narrative, that there's empty space and there's nothing behind it. That's not true, though, because it's not empty space. It's actually filled with energy. There's always energy. There's nothing just completely empty. And that's also, this quantum energy is also the energy that we have in each of our cells. So each cell communicates constantly with each other through these quantum fields that they have. And so we're talking about completely natural energy, right? It's nothing artificial. Like, we also didn't create anything artificial. We worked with the actual, natural, pure quantum energy field, right? So that's what people need to understand. That's the energy behind the matter. We are not talking about quantum mechanics here. That's not what we're doing.
Okay.
For me, that is a rabbit hole, a theoretical rabbit hole that doesn't really lead anywhere. Nothing really has come out of that other than theoretical models. And yeah, it hasn't really led to more understanding of how life really works and how the universe is set up, right? We work more with the understanding that Tesla had. So Tesla understood that there's the ether, and you can pull energy out of the ether. You could pull frequencies out of the ether. And he actually developed certain technologies on how to do that. And now we're not working with electricity like he did also as well, but he had the frequency understanding as well. One of his most famous quotes is, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, you need to think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I think that's more important than ever right now in these times. But with this understanding, we work, and we don't work with Tesla technology, by the way. Like, we have literally developed our own technology, but it is really not focused at all on electricity. It is focused really on quantum energy, on various specific frequencies, and combining these two to actually really frequency medicine, so that you can bring systems that are out of balance back into balance. And what do I mean with system? That's nothing technical for me. I'm just saying system because everything is a system. Our body is a system. Our heart is a system, right? And then you have the whole body as being a system of all these organs and everything else combined. And you have a pet that is, different from a human, but it's also working all together, and you can throw these pets, humans, plants out of balance with stressors, whether that is EMFs, so it's other frequencies and bad air, bad water, all this good stuff, right? And on a frequency level, we're trying to help to bring back the natural state of such beings, physiological organisms, systems, whatever you want to call it.
Is there, so how do you measure and how do you go about programming certain frequencies? Let's talk about your products. There's a block, I don't have one. There's frequency cards, and then there's these bullet looking necklaces that are filled, and I can show the audience. So there's these beads. Is that what they're called? Beads or balls?
Beads, yeah, we call them beads. Yeah, in the beginning we said titanium balls, and then we realized that could be misunderstood.
The titanium?
Yeah, it's titanium.
So Philip, there's 5 of them, and actually like a week ago, I felt it heavy, and I removed 2 of them, and I put them in a plant. I don't know why I felt like I needed to remove 2 of them. So maybe you can shed light. I was just kind of just following my intuition, and I was told to charge them, so I put them, by a house plant. So yeah, let's talk about what is this?
Yeah, so first of all, one step back on how we even develop. So what's the technology that we develop? I think that needs to be understood first. Is we created a technology that can imprint pure natural quantum energy into any object, and with that, it can also be leveraged for any physiological organism. As I said, plants, animals, humans, doesn't matter, and then we can combine it with frequency. With our technology, we can copy frequencies, and we can imprint frequencies into water, into metal, into whatever. It really, there's no limit to that. And then the question, and we have some products that really are basically generating a super high consciousness field, which is the blocks. That's the LEELA block technology. Those are the most powerful products, because you can literally tap into a multidimensional quantum energy space if you have this device, and you can do lots of crazy things with it, actually. But if you don't even do anything with it, it harmonizes your whole home or office, wherever you put it, in regards to EMFs and other frequencies that are potentially harmful to the human body. Now, with the frequencies, we work together with a network of top-notch healers / seers, okay? And I'm not talking about like some guy across the street that learned how to do Reiki and puts hands on people. I'm talking like top 10 in the world, okay? That can see energies and frequencies on such a granular level that it's the easiest thing for them to just walk in the room and see all the different frequencies and vibrations that are there. Isolate a vitamin C frequency, for example, isolate a vitamin D frequency, neutralize a fear frequency, whatever that is. They could look at you and see your heartbeat, and could see it, like you say, you have some neck pain. They could see which nerve is actually the one causing the issue. Is it even a nerve or whatever, right? So one of those is Roman Hafner. From Europe, who's very well known. He's just not so well known in the US because he doesn't speak English, so he speaks German. But in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria, like most everyone has heard of him. They call him the Wunderkind. So he was born literally with the ability to see all these frequencies, and he had to learn the physical seeing. Like for him, that's still nowadays sometimes an effort where he really needs to focus, because his natural way of seeing is to see all the frequencies, okay? And as an 11-year-old already, doctors called them up to, when they had patients that were out-treated or they didn't know what they had, to have him look at them, to tell them what they had and what they need to do. Yeah, so that's the type of caliber that we work with. And so we work with etheric frequencies that literally can be pulled out very clean out of the ether and then can promote certain things, whether that is, for example, an inner peace frequency that helps your system to get into your own inner peace in a very natural way when you're in a state of stress, panic attack, anxiety, etc. So that would be one of those examples. It's a frequency that vibrates and it reminds you of your inner peace, and then suddenly you're opening up, you're releasing, you're getting into that, and your inner peace can expand. That's kind of what that would do. And then we work a lot with molecular frequencies. Those are not pulled out of the ether. Those are literally copied from a physical substance, whether that is a healing plant, whether that is, I don't know, a vitamin C pill, whatever, substance you have, you can copy with our technology, and then you can imprint it into an object. So the capsule, to close the loop here, contains almost 80 of such molecular frequencies.
You mean the
The most,
outside, the actual?
the actual brass capsule contains the most important vitamins, minerals, and organic plant extracts for the human body.
Okay.
In frequency form. And also for people to understand, frequency is pretty much the same as information. Okay, so it's the information, the frequency of those vitamins, minerals, and organic plant extracts in there. On top of that, there's a couple etheric frequencies that activate the self-healing powers, and that's in the capsule, and imprinted, okay? And then the beads, and it's charged with pure quantum energy as well, but the beads just contain pure quantum energy, no frequencies. And what that does is, if you put the beads inside, it further boosts out these frequencies in a way that you suddenly have like a 2-meter field, more or less.
Yeah.
And so if you wear it, if you wear it, or if you put it in your pocket, then you have a field that, first of all, harmonizes EMF around you, so you're not impacted negatively by EMF. It has a positive effect on your heart rate variability, and on top of that, you can leverage these frequencies at all times, which helps you in various ways, actually, and we can get into that, of course.
So what would be a reason to take 2 out? I mean, I have no idea what I was doing. And is each bead the same, or how would I know which one is which? Because I say that because I have the list of all the nutritional, the BioBase of all the and we can get into that. But yeah, explain to me why I would remove some beads.
Yeah, so again, the frequencies are in the capsule, and the beads are just charged with pure quantum energy, and they're charged the same way. So it doesn't matter which bead you remove. And so if you had the intuition to remove 2 beads, then it was too much energy for you at the time.
Right.
So exactly. So by removing 2 beads, for example, or 1 bead or 3 beads, whatever, you're basically reducing the strength level of the capsule, if that makes sense. So, for example, we also don't recommend to people to wear the capsule with the beads at night.
Right.
We frequently get asked this question, can I also wear it at night? I want to have the frequency at night. I said, okay, if you're a super deep sleeper, you can. That's not going to be a problem. But if you're like a normal sleeper or very light sleeper, better don't do that, because then you're too stimulated. What you can do then is remove maybe 4 spheres or possibly 5 spheres, put those in your bathroom or wherever, so that they're not on your nightstand. That will be too close. And you can use just the capsule, put it underneath a pillow or whatever. That is totally fine. But with the beads together, it's just a stronger energy field, and it is, or can be, quite stimulating.
Yeah, I have put it on my nightstand. I've taken it off, or I've taken it off and put it in on the bed. Maybe that, and I'm not not a deep sleeper, unfortunately. So I wake up in the night. Although I don't blame the LEELA. Just how did you choose the name LEELA? It's a beautiful name.
Thank you. Yeah, so LEELA is Sanskrit, and the meaning is divine play. And so our son is called LEELA. So that was our first encounter when we were. That was just the name for our son. Actually, it was supposed to be a girl. It's another story, and it turned out to be a boy. But the energy hadn't changed, and then we were like, "It's still Leela," and so that's Leela. And then, yeah, with a company, I think we wanted to express that it's, you know, it's all divine play. We wanted to display the lightness of it, and also that we're really trying to be really tuned in with what we're doing and trying to do really good things. So that is why it's Leela, and you see that also reflected in our logo, which is basically a mandala that is developed that stands for peace, love, and unity at the same time. So that is what we stand for, and we do all this to help people and to contribute our part to raise the consciousness on Earth.
Yeah, we need that more than ever. Can you talk about the nutritional BioBase of the different, is this, let's say, vitamin A, vitamin C, biotin, folic acid, silicone, is this in the beads or in the capsule?
That's in the capsule. Those are the molecular frequencies in the capsule, basically. And we could have used various different ways and combinations, of course, and we chose this one because that had been researched for 30 years and developed over 30 years, this so-called BioBase mix, and which has turned out to be super beneficial for any human, not specifically for men or for women, but really on average. And then we turned that into the frequency, and we're also testing it on people, and it worked really, really well. So that is the reason why that's in there. And maybe people are wondering, okay, so what does this specifically do actually? Like if I have those vitamins and minerals in there, like how do I benefit? Because I'm not ingesting the capsule, right? Do you want me to talk to that?
Yes, I want to also just tell the audience like there's vitamin A, B12, flax, kelp, black walnut leaf, things that you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, I need the energy of rose hips, spinach leaf, spirulina, watercress. So yeah, I'm interested in even how do you measure like beetroot frequency, and how do you mix them together in like an energetic quantum recipe, right?
Yeah, so again, that's super simple because so even, and everyone can do that actually. If you have a block, you can just take any substance you want and put it in, and it gets commingled with whatever object you put in at the same time, because that's the nature of the quantum space that is created in our technology. If you put two or more frequencies or objects inside, their energies commingle. Literally, they commingle. So I could take a silver coin and a vitamin C pill, put it in, and after 30 to 45 seconds, you have the frequency of the vitamin C vibrating forever in the silver coin. You can do that with water. You can do that with anything. That's actually super simple process. And we actually didn't didn't tell the quantum field to do that, right? It's like that would be, taking credit for something that we didn't do. That's just the nature of such a highly concentrated quantum field. What we did is we were able to figure out a way on how to concentrate it in a way that you have such a space available. And yeah,
Is there a
that is really the
measuring
breakthrough.
tool? Is there a measuring tool to assess different frequencies for different substances?
There's neither a measurement tool for frequencies nor a measurement tool for the different levels of quantum power yet, because science isn't there. So science is really playing catch up with this. And I don't know. I mean, I hope that will be soon, and maybe we have to work on it, but hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll have something like that, because it would make it way, way easier for people to also determine, high consciousness levels and things like that.
So,
No, at this
sorry,
point,
Philip, how do you know, okay, we programmed, I don't know if that's the right word, vitamin C. How do you know the job is done?
well, because you can see it. If you can see energies, you can see that, and it's becomes automated, right? Because every block, every type of block is made in the same way. And for example, in a quantum block, it takes about 45 to 60 seconds to have copied a frequency, and then in a grand block, it probably is just like 20 seconds and you already have copied the frequency, and that's always the same. It couldn't be any other way, frankly. And in terms of measuring what the field does, and now I need to get into the studies because otherwise we'll lose people here, because this is not just some joke or we're telling you, hey, this works and you just got to believe in it. No, you don't need to believe shit at all. It's not about that, because it works. What you can measure is you can measure the effects of it, okay? And you can do that with lots of different methods, and that's also why we didn't just choose one method to demonstrate how it works in 100% of the cases. No, not just like 10% of the cases. Yes, you heard correctly. In 100% of the cases, this works, whether you believe in it or not. There's dark field microscopy, live blood analysis. There have been over 7 randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind, and single-blind studies in that field with statistical significance that prove a significant improvement in the blood across the board when you use our technology. Heart rate variability improvements, increase in ATP production, that's the energy production of the human cells, by 20 to 29%, which just by itself is a medical breakthrough. This is absolutely unheard of, something like that, especially when it's done non-invasive. That has never been there before. You could do like 10, 11 things at the same time and maybe get it to 20, 25%. So this is quite remarkable. Wound healing studies, and by the way, also all randomized and double blind. So there's 0 placebo effects. We're talking wound healing studies with actual human cells, where the wound healing process was accelerated by 85 to 100% with our technology. And of course, always with control groups that are non-treated, and then you have groups that are treated. This was actually done in a university lab in the US by a professor who didn't believe this was even possible. Literally, like he thought, well, great, I mean, I can run these studies because I'm one of the experts in the field and I have my lab. I've been doing this since 3 decades, but I don't think this can work because, I mean, I'm not giving this a shot. I'm not pouring stuff on it. Like how, I mean, it's just energy, right? And he didn't think it was possible. And now he's proven himself wrong in his own studies. And now he's actually telling his students about the quantum fields. So he's become a full believer, obviously, because he's seen it with his own eyes. And there's more to it. I mean, there was a clinical trial with 42 autistic kids that were taken down by 20 basis points off their spectrum on the so-called ADDIC score. And there's more and more and more. The Emoto Institute tested our technology and found it was the fastest method they've ever seen before to change water to the positive. So the Emoto Institute in Japan has been reselling our products since 18 months now because of this great finding. They had never done this before, by the way, with any other product line. So yeah, just wanted to mention that because this is not just some stuff we make up. It's absolutely real.
I'll show the studies when I present this interview. Let's say Pure Life, I'm in South Beach, so when I order a smoothie, they put it in the block. Have a friend also that encouraged me. I don't have one yet, but encouraged me to, if I'm drinking water, to put it on the block, to structure it. Can you also talk about the benefits that you've seen or tested with autistic children? I don't know if it's in Europe, but there have been studies. You mentioned it briefly, for instance, and even, well, go ahead and explain.
Yeah, so the other studies I mentioned were done in Europe and in the US and in Japan. This specific autism study was done by a clinic in India that actually was informed about the potential of the blogs through our Telegram community. We have a Telegram community with over 6,500 active users that are using our products every day and are talking about it. And one person had found out that it significantly improved the life of his autistic child. Okay, and then so this doctor who runs the clinic that's helping autistic kids in India had read about it. And then he was like, wow, we need to test this. I mean, we should set up a study. And it so happens that they have like dozens of kids enrolling constantly into their program because they developed the nutritional dietary program with supplementation, all of that, to take down the ADDIC score of autistic kids by 10 basis points. And so they're already quite successful with what they're doing. And then they reached out and said, hey, could we help facilitate this study? They would run everything, but they don't have the technology, and if we could help. And I said, sure, this is great. Let's do that. So they then ran the study, and within 6 months, it was 42 kids. Within 6 months, you've seen, I mean, significant improvements across the board in all these kids in regards to everything that was measured. And they looked at language and speaking skills, focus and attention span, things like that. All of those fields improved.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, the so-called ADDIC score was reduced by an additional 20%. Not 20%, 20 basis points. Way more powerful than just 20%. So 20 basis points, which led to the fact that there were a couple of kids off the spectrum even. And yeah, so that was quite remarkable. The reason that actually works with autistic kids so well is because autistic kids tend to be always in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
They're not in the here and now, and they have really trouble to be in the here and now. So the powerful quantum energy, what that does, if they're in this field, it pulls them more into the presence. And that is the reason, because this technology works on the consciousness level. That's what people don't understand. We don't talk much about it, because people just always just want to hear about the great things it does to the blood and the physical things, because we're all so physically oriented. But in essence, it works on a consciousness level. And because it does that, it supports us on that most fundamental level of our existence, basically. And then these positive effects ripple through into the physical. That's why you can see really positive changes in mental activity, right, and brain function, but then also in the blood and all of this. That is the reason, but really it doesn't work on the physical level. That's just a ripple effect.
I do want to talk about the blood. Do you have in close vicinity a block or a frequency card that we can show the audience?
I have a block here.
Yeah, that's a big block.
Well, we have bigger blocks actually where
Oh,
you can put your whole head and shoulders in even, or your hips or whatever you want to put in. That was based on requests from the community actually. But this is 8 by 8 by 8 inches here. So
wow.
it's quite big, but some people want even bigger ones. So
Now, are they brass, just brass, or are they mixture of
yeah,
metal?
no, that is pure brass what you have there, those capsules, and the beads are titanium. And yeah, this is not brass. We actually experimented with brass. Brass is amazing as a carrier, but for the blocks, brass wasn't the best metal, and it's also extremely heavy. So people like to travel with these and all of that. So this is
You have a
not
travel
brass.
one now, right?
Yeah, we have a smaller one that's way smaller, and that's for travel purposes or in the car.
So is the idea you put that in a room, you suggest like a central area where, although it'll cover the whole room, do you know the square footage of protection that this would give?
Yeah, so the basic infinity block has a radius of 1 kilometer, more or less.
Wow.
And the EMF mitigation or harmonization of EMF happens in about 40-50% of that. So let's say a radius of, let's say, at least 400 meters, which is, what is 400 meters? That's big, that'd be like 1,200 feet, give or take, just doing the math in my head. Yeah.
And can you explain, Philip, it's not blocking the EMF, it's changing the waves. Can you explain how exactly it's working?
Correct. So I'll put this away because it's just
Yes,
heavy
thank you.
to hold. I can pull it up anytime again. So yeah. So while we have some products like clothing products that actually block EMF,
Mm.
you know, like the men's underwear or t-shirts and things like that, the blocks and also the capsule, they don't work by blocking the EMF, which is actually quite important because if you blocked it, you couldn't use your phone. I couldn't be with you on this call
Right.
here right now either, unless I was hardwired. And so what it does, the harmonization, I give you an analogy. Okay, so if you were to hit me in the face, it would hurt me. Okay, if you gave me an acupressure in the neck, you would still apply a force, right? But it's beneficial suddenly. So that is what's happening to these waveforms. So if 5G, for example, hits our energetic system, it's
Yeah.
a constant stressor to us. It's a destructive interference pattern or a destructive waveform, right? That's like hitting us. You know, that's the picture you can have in your mind. Energetically, it's constantly hitting us, right? And then we need to counterbalance that. So we constantly need to counterbalance that. Now, what this field does, it harmonizes these waveform patterns in a way that they're not destructive anymore. So they're actually then beneficial, and
Right.
there's nothing that we're needing to deal with. So suddenly we can be in a state of much more calmness, and we're more in balance because we're not fighting off constantly these EMFs. And at the same time, this field also strengthens our own physical and energetic state, so that it's almost as if all this just goes through without any effect. And again, this was measured in many, many, many different studies. Maybe some of your listeners have heard of Dr. Beverly Rubik. She's out of the US, and she's the #1 researcher in the field of live blood analysis.
Yeah.
And she has published multiple publications. And she's actually also, she published a paper also on 5G and COVID, interestingly, that was peer reviewed. And they gave her a really hard time. They didn't want this to
Okay.
get published, but it was so well founded
What's
and
her
written.
name again? Sorry, Philip. Dr.
Dr.
Yeah.
Beverly Rubik. She's very well known. And
Okay.
um, so the way that she's, and by the way, she also didn't believe that our technology would work in the beginning. It's a very interesting. She said there's a possibility it works, but I don't think it can work. And we had by then done already a lot of before and after testing, so we knew it worked. But then she said, "Well, but you have to do gold standard studies." And we're just a small company, we're not research experts, right? So, and then she basically told us, well, you have to run gold standard studies so that you rule out the placebo effect and all of that. And I said, okay, great. I mean, how do we do this, right? And then she said, well, that's what she's been doing since decades, to design such studies and run such studies. So I said, can you do that? And then we sent her products, and then she designed the first study. And I always need to laugh when I say that, because the first study was with 4 test persons. And I told her, well, are you kidding me? You know, in a nice way, I said that 4 test persons, you know, if this works, no one's going to believe me that this works because it was just 4 test persons. And she said, well, that's what you do though. Like, you start a pilot study with 4 test persons, and I'm operating under the assumption that your technology does not work. If it works, then we'll take it to statistical significance. But if it doesn't, then I haven't blown your budget. And I said, okay, well, go ahead and do that. But then the picture changed. She called me after she was done with that study, and she was like, "Oh my God, you really have the solution. You really have the solution. It works. It really works." And I said, and then she said, even for the blood clotting problem, regarding this, you have the solution. And then I said, well, no, I have to put on the brakes because it was just for test purposes. Really, like, I want to know more. Let's do it with a larger sample size. And she said, sure, we'll do that. And again, by now we've done 7 or 8 studies in that regard. It's always the
That's
same result.
Let's talk about the blood. We don't have to get into the jib jab, although I do. But I'd like to know what it does for the blood, given all the blood issues that we're seeing. Yeah, tell me.
So yeah, so what was seen in the blood was that even stage 1 and stage 2 of blood clotting was reversed in just 10 minutes.
What?
That's quite, yeah, that's, yeah. And in all the cases where there were stage 1 and stage 2 of blood clotting, it reversed within just 10 minutes. And so the way, by the way, that she conducted these studies is that a test person comes in, gets tested in her lab, and there's Wi-Fi turned off. Okay, there's no EMFs, and then after she turns Wi-Fi on, then they get tested again, and you see a significant change. And it's literally, it's like, if you can see these pictures on our website actually, because the studies are there. And it even for people that don't know about blood and all that, it just looks ugly, really bad. And you've seen those probably, if you've seen those studies where they looked at dark field microscopy. With that, is it pretty much shows the same picture. And then what happens next is that our technology is introduced while the Wi-Fi stays on, and it's either our technology or that's charged, or it's a sham device that looks exactly the same. Okay, so that it's blinded, so people don't know what this even is, or is it even a working device, right? And so then what was seen is exactly what I said. So these money rolls, the blood clotting reverses. You see more oxygenation in the blood, and also white blood cell activity and motility increases significantly with the use of our technology, even though Wi-Fi is on still. And what Wi-Fi
Sorry, it's oxygenating. It's bringing more oxygen to the blood.
Oxygen into the blood, exactly. And so what Wi-Fi also does next to the blood clotting is that it paralyzes the white blood cells. So white blood cells are obviously a super important part of our immune system. And when they're paralyzed, we can't defend ourselves, right? So, and to be fair, right? So when we're constantly in a Wi-Fi soup, of course, our own consciousness and body, we're constantly counteracting that. We're not always running around with the worst blood clots, even though some people are. So, but we're having to put in a lot of work actually, right, to fight this off. The beauty about this is now you can be in a field that does that work for you, basically, and then you can take care of other things. That's basically what it showed. The Base Institute went even further. They showed even a significant reduction in parasitic load in the blood, which is quite remarkable. I think
Where
even
would the parasites go if do they die out?
It's a really good question. But hey, I mean, it doesn't even stop there. Like the Base Institute, and I don't know, I have the impulse to tell you right now, but you're the first person I'm telling this publicly. I thought I would never talk about this publicly because it's a very delicate topic, but they're currently conducting another study that has been running for 2.5 or 3 months now.
Yeah.
And with 26 test persons, 13 in the control group and 13 that are treated with our tech. And you have vaccinated and unvaccinated people in both groups.
Yeah.
And they can find traces of the spike protein in the blood of all control group people, no matter whether they were vaccinated or not. They find traces of the spike protein. And in no one that is in the treated group, they can find any traces of the spike protein. Isn't that crazy? So, I'm not saying anything yet, but we're expecting a report relatively soon in regards to that. And I'm still wrestling with myself if we even publish that, but there's really something to it, and it has a beneficial effect for sure.
So we're wrapping up. So I want to talk about the frequency cards. I don't have a frequency card, but I learned that you have an ADHD frequency card, which I would benefit from given my ADHD. So does it help with focus? Would these cards or capsules, would they work on anyone?
Yeah, so but you would want to choose what you feel you need, right? And by now I think we have about 30 different frequency cards, which
Wow.
half of those really were developed based on feedback and requests out of the community. Like we listen to the people and what they want. And the specific focus card that you mentioned, for example, we had, when we worked with the autistic kids, there was, during that time, we developed a specific frequency that helped them. Then people in the community heard about it and they said, couldn't you also have something for ADHD? And there's actually some variations of that frequency that we used for autistic kids that also works for ADHD. And then we developed a specific one for that. Now, we never brought that out or released it and never called it that, because we don't want to work on specific health conditions or diseases, or even because we're not a medical device company, we don't want to be one. So what we did is we actually combined a lot of other things into that. So now this card, you can say, actually helps everyone in regards to focus and concentration. Think of older people that have forget things, right? I'm just phrasing it that way. It helps them, as well as the people that you mentioned. At least have been some really great reports, and that would be the one actually to use. Yeah.
So what would you put a combination of nootropic frequency? Like how do you increase focus or help with focus? Like, are there specific supplements that you're programming the card with? Do you have a card to show the people?
I unfortunately don't have a card to show, but it's very easy to imagine. It's a golden card that looks very beautiful and has the size of a business card or a credit card, basically. But it's really a metal card, and in case you want to get one, you really have to wear it at the body, or at night you could put it underneath a pillow or a bed sheet or something like that. It would need to be close to the body because it doesn't have such a large field as the capsule does. And yeah, that's how it looks like. Well, again, we work with etheric frequencies, so for
Focus.
any issue that exists, we can provide a specific frequency set, but then often we combine it with molecular frequencies where you can use well-known substances or supplements that help with a certain type of issue, for example. And then we play around with combining these. Does it work better without it? Does it work better with it? And all of that. That's pretty much how we end up.
Do you reveal what let's say, for focus, just like you have a BioBase for the capsules? Can you tell me what is in the focus frequency?
It's a purely etheric frequency.
Okay.
The focus frequency. Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain to people what is an etheric frequency?
Yeah, an etheric, I mean, so it's a frequency that you can't derive from a physical object or substance. If we have some matter here, whether it's an apple, for example, or a lemon, everything vibrates in a certain way. Everything has its own frequency. So the lemon has a different frequency than the apple, for example. And if we were to copy the apple frequency, that's a molecular frequency, okay? That is literally derived from that physical substance. Now, if someone has a headache, yeah, and really one of these super gifted healers would work, or you have a headache. Let's say you have a headache, to put this example right here, and then they would check, okay, so what's the imbalance causing this this headache, okay? And is there an information that can be provided to you that neutralizes that so that you don't have the headache anymore? So then this frequency and information is literally pulled out of the ether and provided to you. That's literally how it works.
Yeah.
And now what we can do again with our technology is that when an energy or frequency like this is captured, we can literally capture it and and imprint it into an object where it then constantly vibrates in, let's say, a card, for example, right? Now, it's not that simple, and also doesn't go really this quick because there's a lot more to it, and to really finding this frequency, it's not like 99% of the so-called healers out there couldn't do that, right? You need to be extremely advanced also because you couldn't. Yeah, it's just it's a very, very sophisticated way of doing that. But then our technology really is helpful because one healer that may be the best in the world, I mean, he could just always pull it and provide it to someone like that. But now we actually have technology so that we can duplicate it and make it available to more people.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we're wrapping up. Want to be mindful of your time. Tell us about the Telegram group. I'm gonna offer all the links if someone's interested in getting a capsule or frequency card or a block. I know that I want a block and a frequency card, especially after speaking with you. So tell us a little bit about the Telegram group, and thank you for your time, Philip.
Well, thanks for having me on. So the Telegram group is a great vibe community of over 6,500 members by now. Those are people that are very interested in our tech, and they're using it on a regular basis. They're really active users, and they experiment with it. They discover new things. They're tinkers, you can say, and they share and they learn, right? And if new members join, they can ask questions, of course, and then there'll always be people that answer the questions. I'm there as well, so it's basically a forum of interaction where you can just talk about this, learn about this.
Can anyone join? Where do you go to join? I mean, obviously Telegram, but what's it called?
We have limited indeed to customers, and I would say, and to people that are very interested and really interested in becoming customers, let's say it that way, right? And you can find the link on our website, leelaq.com. There's a Telegram icon somewhere.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you don't have the link, do you
Yeah,
have the link for
I'll get
the
it.
group?
I will
Okay,
get
you'll
it.
get it. Okay, because then you can share it. Feel free to share it with your listeners, of course, because you couldn't find it on Telegram. We wanted to make it private so we keep out the bots, and we also don't want just random people in there.
Right, randos. We don't want randos. Okay, Philip, anything else you want to share before we sign off?
Well, I know you've done quite some work on bees, right?
Yeah,
And so I don't know all the work you've done, but just that you are interested in bees, and
I
then
directed
maybe.
the film Vanishing of the Bees. It's
Amazing, amazing. I haven't watched it, but I should and I will. So that's great. So we had bees ourselves when we still lived in New Mexico, and
okay.
we saw crazy things actually also in the neighborhoods that were related to poisoning of the air that affects the bees and actually killed a lot of bees. And we found that our technology was quite helpful for the bees in many different ways. And so yeah, it's really technology, and that's my last
Yes.
sharing here, that is not just beneficial for humans, but really animals benefit from it as well as do plants, because we tend to forget that all of these things like EMFs and all of that, they're not just bothering us, they're bothering the animals as well. And not only that, there's certainly poisoning out there with on other levels. So it's
Absolutely.
beneficial for those as well.
Yeah, I'd love to see a photo of a block next to a beehive. I'm sure that they do love it. They are responsive to energies. So that's beautiful that you're a beekeeper.
Well, actually, you know what? And so I'm having this. We've had this idea because there's the bees create this amazing healing frequency, which is a sound frequency, which is
Yes.
another set of frequencies, and that is a frequency that we had been interested in actually also capturing, and and then seeing like, what does that do if you have that frequency on a card, for example. We aren't that far yet, so because we have so much to do, but that's just another thought.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll be your ambassador for the B card, the buzz card, because it is, I've taken an image with hundreds and hundreds of honeybees on me to show that there's nothing to be fearful of, but the frequency of the bees and all their little buzzing and their legs, I mean, it's love. It's a beautiful frequency. So do let me know when you
awesome.
get around to that. So blessings, have a beautiful day. Thank you for your time, and I'll put all the links for people to take a closer look at LEELA Quantum Tech.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Everyone, I would like to invite you to like and subscribe. It's becoming more and more difficult to continue to do this. Nothing is monetized, but if you check out my work, it's significant. There's a lot of work that I'm doing, and I would love to continue to be able to put on this show and write my articles. So please like and subscribe, and I will be putting all the links to check out LEELA, and I'm going to be getting a block myself and a frequency card for ADHD. So thank you so much, and have a blessed day.